All right, Tuesday, August 5th. Will's back, catching guy, epic catching. Maybe Tuesday is going to be our catching day. I don't know. What do you think?
I like the sound of it.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. Hold on, let's turn you up so I can hear you. Oh, what's going on in the catching world? What's up today, bro?
Not much. Busy couple of weeks. The last few weeks, bunch of new people coming in, bunch of people trying to get in, just squeezing people in before the school year starts. So it's been a little bit overwhelming, but it's always a good thing to be busy. So I can't complain about
So we
that.
got probably got trials, right? Like JV trials and things like that.
So it's like the transition from the end of summer ball to fall ball here in New York right now, and then kids
Okay.
like just cram everything in before the school year starts, which gets a little bit crazy. So you get the parents who are kind of like scattering just to fill the last 2 weeks of summer in with whatever activity they can. You know what I mean?
So you getting younger kids?
Yeah. So I work with kids. I have one 6-year old, and
Oh
then most
wow.
of the kids are like middle school, high school, a couple college guys here and there who are getting ready to go back as well.
Um, high school guys. Well, like, do you find people are kind of reacting in high school, like, oh shit, we need to get back on this, or shit, summer wasn't that good. We need to work on things, sophomores, juniors, etc.
Yeah. So I think a lot of guys that I've worked with, whether it's remotely or in person, they kind of had that August 1st window open up for the recruitment period and they maybe didn't get calls or any contact that they were looking for. So they're kind of like scrambling in that sense. Hey, how do I do this? How do I do that? Trying to just get feelers out to different coaches because a lot of the kids, like, they're never educated on this stuff, whether it's through travel that should probably be educating them when they get to that age. And their high school coaches, like I said in our previous episode, like a lot of them are not knowledgeable in that area. So we were not really setting our kids up to have that great feeling on August 1 that, hey, phone's going to be ringing, but we're not putting any work on the front end to get the attention of those guys to want to contact us. You know what I mean?
What do you mean on the front end?
Like sending out emails and getting
Okay.
seen ahead of time. So they're kind of
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
waiting, saying, oh, August 1st comes, I might get that phone call. And then they get disappointed when they don't.
Well, I mean, shoot. I mean, that's why I texted you. I got that call yesterday. We'll kind of leave names out of it, but it's the kind of like shit. What do we do? We don't know. And I mean, we're up in Canada, right? So it's way less of way less education up here, and it's kind of like everybody. People scramble when coaches aren't calling, when schools aren't calling, and guess what? They're probably not going to call unless you're, unless you're doing something real special. You're just another guy. I had one of the best things I've heard in a while was Tacoma Community College head coach Ian Sanderson was on, and he's like, when we're at tournaments and we're looking at guys, we see everybody, we see everybody playing, everybody's pretty much the same. For us as coaches, there's 20 guys we like, and let's say we have 5 to 7 spots. We're now looking for reasons we don't like you,
Right.
right?
I've had
And
some
it's
really
like,
conversations with guys about that as well. Like just the way you carry yourself, a bat at bat, like you throw your helmet, you snap a bat, whatever it may be. Like they're not
mhm.
going to say anything. They're just going to cross you off the list and go to the next guy. Like, yeah, it's cool to get fired up sometimes, but don't be an idiot about it.
Yeah. There's a fine line between passion and being a jackass, right? So, yeah, absolutely. It's and again, this is where I preach, proactive versus reactive, and proactive versus reactive in the recruiting world and the mental performance world. It's not sexy. It's not flashy. You can't post it on Instagram. It's not something that's going to get likes. It's not something you're going to see. But when it comes down to it, that's the meat and potatoes of life, is being proactive with this kind of stuff that's going to set you up for a year or 2 years from now, instead of the scramble, right? Because everybody's scrambling right now. Coaches are, every fuck man signing. Everybody's starting to sign now. You're going to start to see all these Instagram posts of commitments and everything. So it's a
I
tricky time comparison wise.
Right. And I think I got really lucky. The first kid I kind of went all in with training again once I got back into it. He was kind of in a rough spot. He was coming off a labrum injury, and like him and I, we just grinded together. Like we revamped everything he did, changed his arm slot, changed the way he threw, and he had some huge jumps right away. Didn't have a great sophomore year at the high school level, but he went into the summer season and absolutely crushed it.
Mhm.
And I kind of use him as like just a just an example of like how you can go from one extreme to another extreme in such a quick matter of time. So he killed it in the summer, went to Monmouth, had like the worst day he's ever had apparently, and
Okay.
he kind of like got on the phone and was mother effing everybody. Oh, I should have played football, this, that, and the other thing. And I was like, dude, let it go. Like bad days happen. And he
Yeah.
had another camp coming up the next week in Marist. Went to Marist, absolutely crushes it. Like steals 3 bases, hits a bomb, hits 2 doubles, throws a guy out, whatever.
Yeah.
And they ended up offering him like a 50% scholarship as going into his junior year of high school. You know what I mean?
Man. Yeah.
So just
Yeah.
understanding like the peaks and valleys of the game and flowing with it and not getting so emotionally invested in the struggles or the successes, but just kind of riding the wave. Like that's so huge. And I wish I knew that when I was younger. Like I had said previously, like I was a hothead. I had a lot of emotional problems, but like learning to just kind of like ride the wave and go with it, I probably could have gotten a lot further. And I think that's like one of the biggest lessons that we can give to the kids who are at the younger ages right now.
And there's things like, let's say you go for 3, you know that number as a player, there's people there watching you, but you don't know what they're looking for. I mean, I used to get videos all the time where I liked a foul ball better than their actual single.
Yeah. And
It's
he had
like
one
it's
like
like
that. Well, I think
it's
he hit
like
a bunker.
wow, like yeah, like that is a good swing right there. Like that's real close. Give me 6 months with this kid and we can get him somewhere. And I think that's something that's lost is quality of bats, swinging at your pitch, working counts, things like that, moving guys over. I don't know. We can call it old school baseball. Or we can just call it baseball. That's what coaches are looking for. It's not about hitting tanks all day as much as that's great. If you can crush a baseball, awesome. But majority of kids can't do that all the time. So, what are you doing and how are you doing it and how are you reacting to it? Are you looking at it as quality, et cetera? And Chase and I, Chase Lambin is, we
Yeah,
talked
we
about
told you
that.
all the story about Chase from when I was young. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, like we talked this morning, like it's a cool Chase Lambin story this morning. I'll let him tell it when he comes on the podcast, but had something to do with a walk-off, not on the Rangers last night, but in the big leagues. It was pretty cool. Advice he gave to a hitter in the big leagues who he used to work with. Sure as
Pretty cool.
shit, pinch hit, walk off. I don't know if you watch highlights. There weren't many walk off pinch hits last night, so that was pretty neat. But quality at bats. What's your approach? How are you carrying yourself to the next at bat? What did you learn from that at bat? And good coaches can see that stuff. They can see your composure. They can see your approach. They can see what the hell you're doing up there, or if you're just a space cadet who's lost. So again, kids listening right now who are trying, they're on the path. It seems like, I mean, it's kind of cool you came on because now I had that family reach out yesterday about getting things moving in the recruiting world, and yeah, it's a real emergency sometimes for a lot of kids. And I sent you some catching videos, and I'd like to dive into a little bit about not so much the specific video, but I'm sure what that specific athlete did is quite common, right? So, Will, from your perspective, let's say juniors and seniors, let's target them today in high school. What's a common thing you're seeing that's not a quick fix, but that can be cleaned up?
To me, the most common thing that I'm seeing kids do is just kind of trying to mimic everything that they see on TV, right? And I think I hinted at this last time. Like
Mm-hmm.
they see in Austin Wells go to his right knee with this like extreme kickstand out in the front, and they're like, "Hey, like I can do that." Maybe your body can get into that position, but it can't understand how to move and the ways you need to move to be successful through there, right? Um, and I think like kids are just hearing so much from so many people who maybe are or are not qualified to be saying things, right? Um, especially in the catching space, like if you're not in it, like you have no idea for the most part. You see a guy get down on a knee, and the assumption is it's lazy, it's nonsense, it's stealing, it's cheating, and that's constantly the stuff that I'm hearing from people. But
Yeah.
people don't understand, like, from the conversations I've had with some big league catching coaches recently, like, it's not about stealing strikes. It's about putting yourself in the best position to present the ball and influence the call, right? And that's
Yeah.
gamesmanship at the end of the day. That's something you learn. Like I learned it in college, the difference between sportsmanship and gamesmanship.
Well,
Well, within
the effort to steal a strike isn't new. Like fucking, if, you watch little leaguers be taught like a ball. They'll see a ball a foot off the plate and they'll try to drag it back to the center. Like that has been around for a long time.
it's just the exaggerated moves and the glove load from bottom up and all that stuff. It like for whatever reason it just gets under people's skin. And to me it makes I laugh when I hear people go nuts about it. But like there are clear advantages. I think kids just really have to figure out the way that they move. That's the biggest thing, right? And I was going to hint at this a little bit later, but again, you put a kid inside a box, they're never able to grow. If you stick a kid in a traditional setup, maybe they don't have the limitations or the mobility to get underneath the ball, right? You see a lot of kids in a secondary stance with their arms fully extended to the ground like this. Their initial move is to catch the ball fully extended.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's drop that kid into a left knee down stance with nobody on base so that he can understand how to stay under with some flexion in his elbow and utilize the right muscles to present the ball, right?
Um, you there?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. No. No. Absolutely. So again, kids looking at big leaguers because that's kind of the. I think all of this is quite new. There's you talk about being in it. You talk about um, people who actually understand what's going on. I mean, shit. I was a catcher in professional baseball. I was a catching coach up till about 2019. But from 2019 on, everything's changed. I haven't been in the game. Like I haven't been in the middle of it. That's why I'm so interested to talk to you about it because yeah, I see knees down. I understand the concept, elbow to the sky, we're what we're doing, we're snatching the ball out of the air from the
Right.
terminology I've heard. But the technical side of it, talking about, in that video that you sent me where his left leg was outside the plate, this is why I want to, we're geared towards high school catchers right now. What should they be watching? What should they be doing? Is how important is mobility in this? Yoga, stretching, all these things where, kids are, hey, lift, gains, gains, gains. Yeah, great. But the ability to move as well. And also, you know, you're seeing funny sized big league catchers, with the Molina brothers back in the day. Alejandro Kirk doesn't exactly look like an athlete,
Oh
but
yeah.
god damn, that guy can frame up some baseballs.
Right. And he gets into these positions and he makes it work for him, like he knows how his body works and you look at him and you kind of like poke fun at like his physical appearance, but at the end of the day, that dude is a dog. Like he's
Yeah.
really solid, right? He's an all-star. I think
Yeah.
he's won a gold glove or whatever, but like he's probably a guy that at some point a coach was like, "Hey, you have to be on 2 feet because of your size," right?
Yeah. Gotcha. What about I found when I had my facility and when I was working with catchers, there's a lot of drills, there's a lot of kind of tossy drills and roll drills and short hop drills, etc. But I found that at the end of the day, just a good old hack attack and just getting the ball to them and having them fail until they figure it out was the best way. And I see you put, obviously you post a lot of videos on Instagram. I'm assuming you guys use a machine when you do that, when you guys are pumping balls in just for consistency.
Yeah, I had to invest in a hack attack. My arm started hanging a little bit, so I went out and just bought my own. And I think the hack attack is awesome because you can like get the ball to tail or run or whatever you're looking for it to do,
Uh-huh.
just to throw that guy off just a little bit, right? Whether it's his timing, his initial glove move, whatever it may be. Um, but again, even with the hack attack, like I do a lot of drills where I'm making the ball skip 3 to 4 inches in front of the plate so that they have to keep their glove under and receive it that way. You know what I mean? So we're truly working from the bottom up. If the ball just stays here and it's like middle, whatever, one, those balls are going to get hit 8 out of 10 times.
Yeah.
Two, if you're doing a good job with your timing, you're going to be forced to stay underneath the ball as that ball skips and present it properly. You know what I mean? So we're really focused on the timing, the initial move, the launch, presetting the glove as you recognize the location, things of that, like little fine details. But
What is
again,
the what is the can you explain, for anybody listening, the launch? What, like, again, when you broke that video down and sent it to me today, there's some really cool terminology, the launch. Tell me what the launch.
okay, so let me see how I can kind of make this work. So if we think of like our thumb being flat into the ground here, right? The way
Uh-huh.
I like to think is I think of like an airplane taking off for a kid, right? So we're creating good angle to create trajectory underneath the ball and through it. So essentially, if I work straight up to the ball here, I'm going to have two moves because I'm working vertically and then to the ball, which oftentimes we push down, right? So what I try to do is I make sure that the kid's thumb, and I use like a calf stretching board usually when I first start working with the kid. And I really
Okay.
focus on getting their thumb planted and then just focusing on that initial move and creating a good angle for takeoff, so to speak, to the ball, right? And understanding that pocket awareness and keeping your thumb and index finger under as the ball breaks the surface and rotating as you catch it. So that's what I refer to as launch.
I do that motion. That definitely was not a motion that I used when I caught, like
Right.
this elbow up to the sky. It was like,
Yeah,
shoot,
it's
man. It
fun.
was like, they were like, put all your fingers to the sky. It was really old school.
Yeah.
um, so launch, you want to be matching the plane of the ball in a sense.
Ideally, yes. So the initial move with your thumb, right? So I say thumb drag with the launch. And then ideally, I want to try to keep my thumb and my index finger or my web of my glove underneath the ball for as long as possible, right? So I'm always trying to catch the inside, outer, upper, or outside third of the ball, regardless of location. That's just my thought process. So
But
if
there's got to be a best way in a sense. Like there's thought process, there's theory in a sense. There's got to be the most effective way, right? I
right,
mean, would you agree?
I do agree, but like let's say this is a pitch that's in the buffer zone, a ball low, right? If I
Uh-huh.
focus on catching the center of the ball, I'm naturally going to get my thumb above it, work down, and then bring it back up, right? So I try to
Gotcha.
think thumb and index finger underneath
Yeah.
and then snap through as it breaks the surface. But in terms of
Yeah.
like best way, I think if you watch these guys and truly dive into like the slow motion video, if you're a nerd kind of like I am, most of the time it's just the thumb staying underneath. Like I teach pocket just because pocket awareness is so rare for young kids to understand. So like I
Yeah.
pick where the laces are, where the web connects to the glove.
Mhm.
Um, but I think there's different cues that work for different people. And that goes with every aspect of catching. You know what I mean?
Um, the training on that. How fast are you seeing kids pick up the pocket awareness? Because obviously that's a big one. Is the trust in the pocket? Obviously you don't want the ball bouncing around. Do you use any tools like a keyhole glove or anything like that? Are you a fan of that?
I use a keyhole with the upper kids just because the younger kids, they don't really understand the aspect of like the pocket itself still. And I've tried to use it with younger kids, but like they treat it like a normal glove still. The
Gotcha.
keyhole's an awesome tool, but I feel like when I use it with even the older kids, a lot of the time they're like swiping their thumb through it to try to get the ball into the net, right? So
Okay.
I use nail balls for the most part, like with our early
Yeah.
progressions.
Yeah.
Um, and just like simple things, like you said, the rolling, the like short hops, things like that, just to make sure that they're reinforcing those patterns properly. But in the grand scheme of things, I think like I correlate catching to hitting a lot in the same sense that your timing has to be really good if you're an elite receiver, right? Like you have to time up and understand where you need to launch, the trajectory of the pitch, and how to get your glove there in the most effective, efficient way.
Mhm.
Um,
Um,
and and the kids that their timing stinks, they end up getting overly extended and pushing down and then bouncing, kind of like that video you'd sent me earlier today.
yeah, so the bounce is a huge one, right? I mean, that's one I love in slow mo. Kids don't ever feel it. Obviously, it's probably one of those things where you got to kind of show them on video for them to actually believe it, right? Like, no, 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 and they're like, oh, I don't feel it. If they think they're doing well, and then they see it, and they see that there is actually 6 inches of bounce, right? The ball, you're pushing your glove down to bring it back up.
Right. And losing strikes sometimes too, on top of it.
100%, absolutely. I mean, the ump is looking. It's kind of like coaches. They're looking for your failure. They're looking for a reason to call a ball in a sense on a close pitch.
Right. Um,
Um,
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, no, no. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think to like the umpire wants to work with the catcher as long as you're just not a tool about it, right? So, for example, if you catch the ball 6 to 8 inches outside the zone and you're pushing it to your right shoulder and presenting it on the inside part of the plate, like you just look like a clown. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
creating angles and movements early and understanding where the pitch is going to be. And instead of tracing that curveball from here to here, understanding that if you match the plane or go opposite the plane of the pitch, you're going to have a much better success rate. Getting kids to understand that is huge too, especially when they're transitioning from like 8th grade to 10th grade in that area. They're still doing this
Mhm.
because they're not used to seeing the ball break. So just kind of getting them to trust their body, allow that ball to get as deep as possible and ambush it, I think is a huge, huge advantage for kids as they go from that 8th grade to 10th grade like level. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. What about, I know the game has changed obviously from when I caught. It's a much more vertical game than a horizontal game, right? Yeah. But that being said, that requires velocity, right? That requires ride on a fastball. That requires spin rate. You're not seeing that a lot in high school as much. There's some velocity there, but you're still not encouraging kids who throw 80 poo to throw up in the zone, right? So we're working side to side, a lot of side to side. Are you working with guys, obviously, on corners and angles?
So I do, but again, I just had a really interesting conversation with a big league catching coach just yesterday, actually. And I posted something and I was talking about kind of like setting up and getting to the outer third or inner third. And he made a really good point. He said the best in the world hit their spots about 19% of the time, which is kind of crazy to think
Wow.
about, right?
Yeah.
So even at the major league level, they're having their guys set up middle, and maybe shading an inch or two this way or that way, but they just are really, really good at understanding like misfires. And instead of setting up inside and reaching across your body here and dragging it, that they're kind of staying more stationary. So after that conversation, I think I'm going to step back a little bit from like splitting your crotch with the plate to kind of like just a subtle movement. You know what I mean? Because it does make sense. And I had never thought of it that way because I was taught to make sure that you're getting your right thigh even with the outer third or left thigh with the
Yeah.
inner third, so on and so forth.
So
But
that's a big point for any coaches listening right now, in a sense of like, especially let's say you got a high school pitcher or a high school catcher, and he's learning that from you, and then he goes on with his team, and the coach is like, no, you got to set up here, you got to set up here, you got to set. There's gonna be, there's gonna be a generational challenge of guys who understand catching and are teaching catching compared to old school managers who are saying, nope, no one knee. I want you proper primary, proper secondary, etc. Which is fine, because I do love the fact that I'm seeing a lot of traditional setups with still working the glove, doing the glove work, which I think is super difficult. You
it is
know,
hard because gravity works against you when you're in that setup. You know what I mean? Like even when you're
yeah.
on a knee, like working from the ground up is easier versus being in a squat, getting to like the hollow of the knee or whatever kids are taught now from a traditional setup and then working underneath the ball because your natural instinct is to have your shoulders leak forward and then your balance gets thrown off and you start pushing, right? Like you look at Salvi Perez before
Hmm.
he went to down stance. There was a lot of like borderline pitches that he would end up just pushing ever so slightly and they would lose the call, you know?
Well, Will Smith,
So
Will Smith still, Will Smith is still kind of there with some of what he does. Like you look at them all. You look at Buster Posey, you look at Joe Mauer. Like it just that's how it was, right? It's really hard to do that. At a 96 mile an hour in the bottom of the zone, it's almost like a spiked fastball. It's hard to bring that up.
it's very hard to create a positive angle from there because like let's be real, your ass is at the bottom of the zone when you're in a squat. So everything that you're trying to work from bottom up, it's
Mhm.
foreign. You've got to push down to get up, essentially. That's how I see it anyway.
So bottom line is it's just reps, 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 reps. Again, comparing it to hitting, it's just like just working off a tee, working off front toss. Slow progressions to faster progressions. Just get comfortable with it. Yeah.
And I think that the easiest way to get good at it is just do it a ton. Like you're not going to get it in a day. Chances are you're not going to get it in a week. You'll see some improvement, but overall, like it's a long term thing. It's truly a marathon and not a sprint. Like I constantly stress that to people now, and it's
Okay,
hard for
what about this? So what about this? This is one I've working with a 12-year-old recently on some catching stuff, and yeah, he's athletic, but he's the coordination's still not there with some of the movement. So I worked with him, and then saw some video of him in game, and he was trying some of it, but he was having a hard time. So I was like, okay, here's the deal. We work on this stuff. We work on it nonstop. When you're playing in your game, you do what you got to do to help your team win. So if that means catch the old traditional way that you feel comfortable with, so balls aren't getting through your legs, so you're actually catching every ball, then do that. And take the off season. We'll get our reps in, and we'll slowly progress back. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree wholeheartedly with that. So
Yeah.
another kid I train, he's actually teammates with the other kid I was talking about before. He came to me and his coach basically said, like, if you don't learn how to catch, you're going into the outfield. Fair point. Like, if
Mm-hmm.
you can't catch, you can't catch. That's just how it is. So he wanted to catch from a knee down stance, had no idea how he was moving. So I forced him back into a traditional setup. I said, look, figure out how your body moves from here, and then I can get you to a point where you're back to a knee. So fast forward to just a couple weeks ago, um, the kid's on a knee down. He's in a knee down stance, and he's doing a really, really good job with it, working with receiving, blocking. He does everything pretty well now. The kid's dropped almost 4/10 of a second on his pop time since we started working together, just because he really learned how to move, right? And I think
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing. Like I can't stress this enough. Like the 12-year-old you're talking about. Okay, you want to catch from a knee down? Show me that you can do it the old school way before we get into these new school ideologies and whatnot. If
Yeah.
you can't move and you can't block and you can't receive from a knee down stance, you've got to go back and try to simplify it as much as possible.
Yeah. I just think, I mean, to be honest, like I think blocking from a knee down is 100 times easier than blocking from a traditional stance. It is so much easier to move laterally and just slide and just move, and it's so calm. There's no violence in it. It's smooth.
Right. Where you see kids slamming their knees into the ground from a traditional setup a lot of the time because they just
Mhm.
don't know how to get there. So I think like you said, like if you can blend the two situationally with setups and whatnot like that, you're setting yourself up for a lot more success, right? I think there's a time and a place for every single stance. I think if you struggle to
Yeah.
receive with nobody on base, you go to a left knee down stance because you clear that left leg as you're going to receive. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
struggle to move laterally, okay, maybe we need to get away from being in a stacked knee down stance and focus on a kick out and getting your heel into the ground so you can push or pull side to side. Um,
And depending on what side of the plate you're on, obviously, right?
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, going back to like what kids struggle with, like they see Austin Wells in a right knee down stance most of the time, or they see Will Smith
Mhm.
in a left knee down stance most of the time. They don't understand like the level of mobility that those guys have. They don't understand that those guys have limitations that kind of probably got them to that point, right? So Austin
Well, they
Wells
also
actually,
don't understand. They also don't understand what they already know about their pitcher, and where let's say Will Smith knows a pitcher has a tendency to miss to this side. So I'm going to get ahead of that and just make sure I can get to that side faster.
well, also
Right.
too, like, so I'm talking about situational stuff here, and we look at Will Smith
Okay.
in a left knee stance. Think about the pitchers that he's caught, right? He's catching
Mhm.
Blake Snell, he's catching Kershaw, two really good lefties with nasty breaking stuff, right?
Yeah.
So if he's in a right knee down stance, catching a left-handed breaker from that angle, that knee is in the way more often than it's not, right?
Gotcha. Yeah,
He's
exactly. Exactly.
acclimated to
Yeah.
clearing it, and
Yeah.
guys don't understand that and they don't think that way, so it makes it really hard.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, there's yeah, there's so many layers to why they're doing what they're doing, and again, and this is one thing I said to a kid yesterday. I'm working with remotely on some hitting stuff. And we are talking about sequencing. I'm like, figure it out, dude. Get obsessed. Like, get obsessed with it. Like,
Right.
figure it out. Like, you shouldn't. He's like, well, I understand what sequencing is. I'm like, well, you don't. It sounds like you don't. So get obsessed with it. Learn about it. Eat it. Breathe it. Drink it. Smoke it. Do whatever you got to do, and make it your life. Like, make it everything you do. Like, sequencing better than anybody, because if you don't know it like that, it's going to be hard to do. It's also going to be hard to self-correct. You can't just go, hey guy, coach, I'm in the middle of a game here, man. I don't can you explain to me my sequencing again?
Right. And it's
Right.
like
So
working with
be
catchers
be a fucking be a nerd about it. Be obsessed with it. Like, learn it.
and then like working with catchers as much as I do, I found that if I can draw a connection between hitting and catching. And if you think about it, when you're throwing to second base, there's so many connections there, right?
Mhm.
Once I draw that connection to like, hey, when you're in your swing and you load your hands back, it's similar to getting to this position as a thrower, right? A lot of the time, once I use that verbiage, like something clicks. I don't know why, but it's just they swing more than they catch probably, and it just makes an easier connection. So
Yeah, I mean the direction of the direction, the you don't want to be over rotational with your top half, all that, right?
and I think once kids start to get that, that's when you really see kids level up quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. I like that. Let me talk to you. We're gonna wrap it up here because we're already half an hour in. That's wild. Was talking to that kid yesterday and his family about pop times at showcases. Okay. And this was interesting because some of these things aren't talked about. How to try out, what to do at tryouts, verified numbers, et cetera, et cetera. Like I didn't have verified numbers when I played. There wasn't all the stuff when I played. So, we were trying to do certain things for a certain reason, but his pop time was just over 2, which I'm like, hey, it's just pretty good. That's not bad. And like you said, probably get that sub 2 real quick with cleaning up some of the receiving stuff without having the arm way out, with getting the back foot down faster, et cetera. Pop time though, if I'm telling and this is my thought process based on how I used to run tryouts and how I used to teach kids to do tryouts. Like, say you get 3 throws. The first one, I don't give a shit if the ball is 5 feet left, 5 feet right. We are talking pop time, not throw runner out. We're looking for a verified time. So if you can throw a 1-8, 1-9, that's not around the bag. If I see that and I'm a coach, I'm like, okay, the ability is there to get the ball out and throw it. There's something I can work with directionally here and get that going here.
Right.
Second or third throw, show that you can get it on the bag or show that you can miss up the first baseline a little bit. So show that you can kind of do both. What are your thoughts on that? Like again, I used to teach kids when pro tryout, you're in right field, you're throwing a third, throw the first one on a one hop, show that you can do it right. Throw the second one, try to throw it 600 feet over the third baseman's head just to show your arm strength. And then the
Right.
third one, try to tie the two together. At least they see everything. What are your thoughts?
So I agree with you kind of on the process that you just laid out there. If you look at perfect game, right, you see kids throwing 1-7s, which that's not real.
Yeah,
You
it's
look
fucking
at
crazy.
big leaguers, they're throwing 2-0s, 1-9s. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if you really want to cheat and put yourself in this showcase stance where you're side straddled and you're catching the ball 6 feet in front of the plate, go for it. You're going to get a great time. Like, you can
Yeah.
take time off, regardless. But I think when push comes to shove and you're in a real game and there's a batter in the box, like, you've got to make sure you allow that ball to get deep. Your footwork is sound, and you're putting the ball within, like, I think like a hula hoop around the base, right? So for these kids who are going out there and gaining so much ground, like, it translates to their game and then they just don't play well. Like, you think you're speeding up, but you're trying to move so fast that you have no control of your body. And that's what I
Mm-hmm.
see most of the time when kids first come to me. So then I'm breaking them down and I'm like, hey, you're going to the showcase. First one, do whatever you got to do. Get it there as quickly as possible. I don't care how you do it. From there
Okay.
on out, we're focusing on getting your body into positions to receive the ball properly, get the ball out of your hand quickly, and get it on the base. Don't care
Yeah.
about the time. Focus on the accuracy, right? Because there's so many factors that go into it for pitchers. You have a guy who's got a high leg kick and his time to the plate sucks. Like, it doesn't matter if you throw 1-7, 1-8, he's still going to be safe.
Of
So
course.
I think the mechanics over the speed are the most important thing, and just understanding, like, stay sound, make sure everything is moving in sync, sequencing, as
Yeah.
you said before, and then just kind of let it play out on its own. Like, if you throw 2-1, you're going to throw guys out still. You throw
Of
2-0, you're
course.
going to throw a lot of guys out. But just
If
understanding that.
if the pitcher's sub 1-4, you're fine. Like you're gonna be okay. You're gonna give yourself a shot. Absolutely. Yeah.
Exactly.
All day.
So,
But kind of going back to what I'm saying though, like, so we're working on his field level profile, right? So it's like, okay, what number is he? What's your pop time? And that's all it's asking. It's like, all right, well, you have a verified 2, whatever it is, all right, well, we have to put that. That's the one that's visible for everybody. You could say I have a 1-8. But again, just to get that verified number, so let's say a JUCO coach, I don't know, in Missouri sees it, he's like, oh, sweet, a 1-8. Like, it's like, not trying to oversell the sizzle, but like
Right.
get that number down because that's what you're there to do. And then, yes, show that you can do everything as well.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree with that. For that particular athlete, I think for him, it's just a matter of getting his feet in the ground quicker so he can accelerate
Gotcha.
his arm faster.
I don't
Um,
disagree. After you really slowed that down and broke it down, there was a lot of, you know, there's it's out in front of the plate almost, right? I mean, it should be feet, 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 you know? So, okay.
I try the
Feet.
guys
What
to think.
how would you speed his feet up? Any drills, anything, skipping,
So
etc.?
I would just kind of shift his mindset to think, and it's not going to happen this way. But what I tell my guys is, as that ball is hitting your glove, I want your feet in the ground, and it
Uh-huh.
just kind of makes their internal clock move a little bit faster to the point where
Yep.
they're getting solidified and staying behind and through it, right? So that athlete too, his front side was like fully extended, like he wasn't getting much like pull from that side, and he would get
Yeah.
rotational. So
Yeah.
like pairing that kid getting his feet into the ground and working a little more violently with his front side through his rib cage is going to accelerate
Yeah.
his arm and get it into a better slot, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't disagree. When we did the slow mo on it and we saw that, absolutely. Now it's going to be a matter of getting on top of it because the ball is probably going to sail on him because he's used to gaining so much ground, right? So,
Right.
um, cool, man. Cool. Anything else you want to add, bro? I mean, sure we
No, I
could
mean,
chat about all kinds of catching stuff all day here.
yeah, no, I mean, for that particular athlete, he's got the size for sure. He's got
Hmm.
the raw ability, clearly. If he's throwing a 203 or whatever it was with like poor mechanics, if that kid just figures out a couple tweaks here and there and can figure things out in a short period of time, like he'll be at that sub two pretty quickly. Like,
Yeah, I
it,
agree. I mean, I think he already actually is at a sub two. That was just the only video we had,
right.
with quality. So, and he can move his feet. I mean, he runs a sub 760, right? So, he doesn't have slow feet. What about? Sorry, I asked again. Any drills for feet to speed feet up?
So I do a lot of segmented stuff, like progressional things. So I have them start standing, making sure their right foot's just getting underneath their chin, and then kind of staying behind the ball there. Once
Is
they get that,
everything is everything you do kind of to do with the catching movement, as opposed to going, okay, we want to speed your feet up, go skipping or go this or that, or run ladders, or is it all motions you're going to use in games?
for the most part, I just focus on like the in-game movements. I do
Okay.
have kids that I'll do hit like an agility ladder with, or like some pliable stuff to clean up their arm action. But
Yeah.
for the most part, it's just like getting the movements done that are game-like and doing it the right way. So, like I said, we'll start with just a simple like plant step under the chin. Then we'll go to plant step, left foot down. And then we'll just kind of go through everything in that sense. So you're really focusing on one tiny aspect, building it out. Then I have them go into a half squat, same thing. Or I'll have them start on two knees and I'll have them bring their right knee underneath their chin from a kneeling position. So it's just like different athletes need different things, right? It's just like anything. And when you get kids to understand that certain movements can almost make feel like a cheat code, that's again when we
Mm,
start to unlock these
cool.
new levels of progress and you see kids' eyes like lighten up. The biggest and most important thing for that kid, I think, forget about the feet. Stop catching the ball 4 feet over the plate and allow that thing to
Uh-huh.
get you because that's wasting a ton of time catching and dragging. You know what I mean?
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. um I'm just going to keep talking here because things keep popping in my head. Are you in a rush or what?
No, 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 I'm good.
So one thing I used to do when I managed was in college and in high school was my throwing programs, like our throwing programs pregame and before practice, were like a practice within itself. So everything was positionally, it was position specific. So all players would have a card with their throwing program, they'd put it in their hat. So for catchers, it would be those movements. It would be roll the ball behind you. We're going 100 feet. You run back, you grab the ball, you turn and throw. So all of those, instead of just stepping and throwing, we're incorporating all those movements. We're incorporating new slots as well, right? So it's put the ball down beside you, grab it, take 2 steps, throw from a low slot, throw from a 3/4 slot, practice all these movements. Turn to your glove side, turn the other way. What are your thoughts on doing that stuff as well? Like again, we see all these great plays on TVs, catchers making these phenomenal plays. They're not just by chance. These guys actually work at that shit. These guys actually work at that stuff. And for me, it was like, okay, when are we going to get a real chance to work on it? There's no better time than when we're doing this. And when you would see my catching, guys just playing catch, it was so detailed, so intentional with every throw that eventually it became, it was something that was brought into game,
Right.
right? So do you have any tips on that? Obviously, you know, there's catching, and then there's the defensive side of catching and fielding your position as well, which always isn't always super technical. It's athletic, right?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing, like you just kind of hit the nail on the head there, is like athletic throwing, right? So as a catcher, you need to be able to utilize just about every arm slot there is in the game at some point in time. Whether
Mm-hmm.
it's a pass ball and you've got to hit the pitcher coming to the plate for tag play, whether it's a pitch that's way out arm side and you've got to kind of pull Patrick Bailey and throw it like submarine.
Yep.
So like I wish I knew this when I was younger, and I kind of always messed around with different arm slots, which is probably why I got cut open twice. But making sure, like for my pregame that I do now, I hit every arm angle. I switch my feet up and I'm throwing with my right foot in front of me, just because I know there's a point in time if I'm going to back pick somebody, I might be on my right knee already and have to make a throw.
Yep.
So I think just
Yep.
maintaining a level of athleticism and not again putting yourself in a box that you have to get to that high or low 3/4 slot that you throw from every time is huge. And it kind of like makes your arm a little more healthy, in my opinion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I don't know if you know Tyler Goodrow or not, but his thing is like be a shortstop with gear on. And it's not just him. A lot of guys are saying this now. Like
I like that.
move like a shortstop with gear on. And I love that terminology that he uses just because like truly you think about a shortstop turning a double play, it's almost the same mechanics as a catcher, right?
Yeah.
So being able to get the ball at your midline and having to drop your arm, like it's something that's a necessity. It's not something that you
Yeah.
should know how to do. It's a necessity as you get older and you start facing
Mm-hmm.
guys who have a wipeout slider that's going to end up at a lefty's back foot or whatever it is. But um, incorporate things like I do a silly thing where I like pretend like I'm a quarterback and I drop back, roll out, and just heave the ball just because it keeps my arm feeling loose and athletic. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
But just sitting there, I see so many kids, they just kind of like catch, throw the ball. Like that's not doing anything for you. You don't
No.
necessarily, you shouldn't be like getting ready to play and just toss the ball. Like you need to throw to warm up, you know?
Well, I think that's on coaches, in a sense of like, and we go back to what you talked about last podcast was like because coaches just don't know these things, right? They're brought up in a lazy environment, so they create a lazy environment. It's not about warm up, it's about being on the field and getting that $20 ring.
Yeah.
Like that's it. Let's get the Instagram likes flowing. Let's get you all dressed like creamsicles and let's get that ring.
That's pretty spot on.
Okay, last question. I promise. I promise. I promise. Last thing to talk about. Old school, still hear it. Coaches telling catchers, okay, catch the ball, bring it straight to your ear, then work down through it. Thoughts?
I have a scar on my arm that tells me to do otherwise. That's all I can really say about that.
Okay,
Um,
and it's old school. It's teach. It's like hey, get on top of the ball. It's like, but you can't catch a fucking curveball in the dirt, bring it to your ear, and then fucking throw it. You've seen Yachty throw from sub slot, throwing guys out at second, right?
yeah, I truly believe that's part of the reason why I blew out my elbow in college because I went from a coach who didn't necessarily care where I transferred the ball, which in the long run ended up being the proper thing to do. Like midline doesn't matter where vertically. And then I went to another coach who forced me to catch the ball regardless of location, get it here and throw from this position. Now, if I just get to this
Gotcha.
position and I start to come forward and accelerate my arm, this is now coming way back and my elbow is going to lead, right? Which your elbow is going to lead anyway. But I don't coach the athlete out of the kid. That's my biggest pet peeve with people. Like,
Mm,
let the kid be an athlete. If they have a little bit of a longer arm action, so be it. Until they put themselves in a position where it's going to hurt them physically, not performance wise, leave it the hell alone. You know what I
uh-huh.
mean? Now, getting super long as a catcher, I don't agree with that. Like, my big thing is when I teach kids, I focus on keeping the ball inside the elbow, regardless of where you get. And I think that's probably what's most common.
Yep.
but you do get
Yeah.
the old
Fair.
school coach who's nearing retirement. Hey, get the ball to your ear, Johnny. Like
It's always
that's
Johnny too, eh? Fucking Johnny. All right, man. Well, that's awesome. I mean, there's lots here to listen to and for everybody to dive into. Again, epic catching. I'll put all your social media in the description. And I don't know. I guess if anybody actually listens to this podcast, fire in questions for, hopefully maybe we can get on next Tuesday. We can answer some. So
That'd be
thanks,
pretty
Will.
cool. Taking some
Yeah,
questions. Yeah,
yeah,
man.
yeah.
Pleasure.
And you know what?
Good luck.
I'm figuring out how we can get video up here too, so we can start rolling through some video and dissecting some players. Even if players want to send in video, maybe we can go through it and just I think that'd be super fun. Just
I
kind of
think
like
people are missing that aspect, right? Like you can go and do any drill that you want in the world, but if you're not getting the feedback, you don't know what the hell you're doing. But
totally,
going back
totally.
to the video from earlier, like if that kid has any questions, obviously like you know what you're doing, but have him reach out to me and I'll help him out. I've got no
Yeah,
issue doing
we'll do. We'll do. All right, brother. Well,
that.
appreciate it. I'm just gonna get you to stay on. I'm gonna hit stop, and we'll get you to stay on. Thanks, bud.
Sounds good.